The king of Zhao Kingdom, Zhao Jianzi, was hunting in Zhongshan. His scouts led the way, the falcons and hounds lined up behind, and countless ferocious birds and beasts were shot down by arrows. But at this moment, there was a wolf in the middle of the road, standing upright like a man and howling. Zhao Jianzi lowered his hands, boarded the chariot, pulled a good bow of Wuhao, put on a good arrow of Sushen, and shot the arrow. Even the feathers at the tail of the arrow went into the flesh of the wolf. The wolf screamed and ran away immediately. Zhao Jianzi was furious and drove the chariot to chase the wolf. The flying dust almost covered the sky, and the footsteps sounded like thunder, and it was difficult to distinguish between people and horses from 10 miles away. At this time, a Mohist scholar, Mr. Dongguo, was going north to Zhongshan to seek an official position. He rode on a lame donkey with a bag of books and lost his way in the morning, looking at the flying dust and trembling. The wounded wolf scurried to him, stretched his head, looked back, and said, "Sir, aren't you determined to help others?" Before, a soldier bought a white turtle at the market and released it in the river. Later, the city he guarded fell, and those who escaped and crossed the river drowned. The soldier also jumped into the river but did not die. It turned out that the white turtle that had been released earlier was carrying him ashore. And once upon a time, the Marquis of the Sui Kingdom was on the road and he saw a small snake, which was trapped and rolled on the beach, with a head injury and bleeding. The Marquis of Sui took pity on him, dismounted from his horse, and plucked it into the water with a whip. Then one night, the snake brought a big, beautiful, and bright rare orb in its mouth to him. The spirituality of turtles and snakes is not as good as that of wolves. "I'm in danger today, why don't you put me in your bag as soon as possible, so I could survive? In the future, if I can get out of the bag and even stand out, sir, your great kindness seems to bring the dead back to life and make flesh grow from the bones. Do I dare not try to imitate the loyalty of turtles and snakes?" Mr. Dongguo said, "Ah. If I secretly protect you, the wolf, I will offend the royal family, disobey the powerful people, and unpredictable disasters will happen to me. How dare I expect to get something in return? But the principle of Mohism is to take universal love as the foundation. I should find a way to save you in the end, even if there is a disaster, there is nothing to excuse." So Mr. Dongguo took the book out of the bag, let the bag empty, and slowly put the wolf inside. He was afraid of pressing the wolf's beard forward, and he was afraid of pressing the wolf's tail backward too. He tried 3 times without success. He was slow and hesitant, and the chasing hunters were getting closer and closer. The wolf begged and said, "The situation is critical. Sir, do you really want to humbly save the man who was burning or drowning? Or ring the bell on the carriage to avoid the robbers? I hope you can find a solution soon, sir." So, the wolf curled up its 4 legs, and Mr. Dongguo tied it with a rope, lowered its head to its tail, and bent its spine against its beard. The wolf curled up like a hedgehog and an inchworm, coiled like a snake, held its breath like a tortoise and took orders from Mr. Dongguo. Mr. Dongguo followed the wolf's instructions and put the wolf into the bag. He tied the bag, lifted it by his shoulders, placed it on the donkey, and retreated to the left side of the road, waiting for the hunters of Zhao to pass by. Soon Zhao Jianzi came and couldn't find the wolf, so he was furious, pulled out his sword and chopped the front end of Mr. Dongguo's carriage and scolded him, "Whoever dares to conceal the direction of the wolf will be like this carriage." Mr. Dongguo fell to the ground, crawled forward, knelt, and said, "I am not wise but determined to serve the world, that's why I travel far away, but I have lost the right path, so how could I find the whereabouts of the wolf and show it to your falcons and hounds? However, I have heard that if there are divergent paths on the road, the sheep easily go astray." Sheep. A child can control it, but even tame animals like sheep can be lost and disappeared because of many deviations. How about a wolf? Especially in Zhongshan, there are countless divergent paths where sheep can go astray. Now you are looking for the wolf along the road, isn't it like waiting for a stroke of luck or climbing a tree to catch fish? What's more, searching is something that your scouts are in charge of. You should ask the people who are in the fur hat. Besides, what is the crime of passers-by? Though I am stupid, don't I know about wolves? The wolf's nature is greedy and vicious, and it is evil when it's with the jackal. If you can eliminate it, I should have stretched out my left foot to contribute my meager strength, so how can I hide the truth and not tell it? Zhao Jianzi fell silent, returned to his chariot, and started on the road. Mr. Dongguo also drove the donkey and went on his way. For a long time, the feather flag of Zhao Jianzi's team gradually could not be seen, and the sound of the chariot and horses could not be heard. The wolf guessed that Zhao Jianzi had left a long way, and said in the bag, "Sir, please keep an eye out. Maybe you can get me out of the bag, untie the rope that binds me, pull the arrow from my front leg, and I'll be off." Mr. Dongguo released the wolf with his hands. The wolf roared and said to him, "I was chased by the scouts just now. They were so fast. Fortunately, you saved me. I am so hungry now that I have no food to eat, and I will surely die in the end. Rather than starve to death on the road and be eaten by beasts, it is better to die at the hands of the scouts and become a tribute to the noble family. Sir, since you are a believer of the Mohism, you don't hesitate to wear yourself out from head to foot to help others and benefit the world, so why should you scrimp on giving your body to me as food to save my poor life?" So he opened his mouth and waved his sharp claws at Mr. Dongguo. Mr. Dongguo hurriedly fought with his hands, retreating while fighting, hiding behind the donkey, and running around it. The wolf was unable to catch him, and Mr. Dongguo tried his best to resist. Both were tired, panting across the donkey. Mr. Dongguo said, "The wolf should be sorry for me, the wolf should be sorry for me." The wolf said, "I don't have to be sorry for you, but you human beings were born for wolves to eat." After a long stalemate, the shadow of the sun gradually moved westward, and Mr. Dongguo thought to himself, "It's getting late, and if the wolves come, I'll be dead." So he deceived the wolf and said, "According to the folk custom, if the matter cannot be finalized, you must ask 3 old beings. We just go ahead and ask 3 old beings. If they all agree that I should be eaten, then you can eat me. If one of them disagrees, then you can't eat me." The wolf was very happy to hear it and immediately went with Mr. Dongguo. After a long time, they didn't see any pedestrians on the road. The wolf was very hungry. When he saw an old tree standing upright on the side of the road, he said to Mr. Dongguo, "You can ask this old tree." Mr. Dongguo said, "The grass and trees have no insight, so it's useless to ask it." The wolf said, "Just ask him, he should have something to say." Mr. Dongwa had no choice, so he made a bow with hands folded in front to the old tree, narrated the incident, and asked, like this, "Should the wolf eat me?" There was a roar in the tree, and it said to Mr. Dongwa, "I am an apricot tree. The old gardener planted me by only one apricot core. After a year I bloomed, and another year I fruited, in the third year, my trunk was as thick as 2 spans, and in 10 years, it can fill one's arms. It has been 20 years until now. The old gardener ate my apricots, his wife and children ate my apricots, and the guests and servants all ate my apricots. He sold the apricots in the market for a profit. I have great credit for the old gardener. Now I'm too old to bear fruit." This made the old gardener angry, cut down my trunk, cut off my branches, and was going to sell me to a craftsman's shop for money. Well, a useless tree like me has reached old age like the sun shining on a mulberry elm. I think it is impossible to avoid being cut down by an axe. What kind of grace do you have for the wolf and you expect not to be eaten? The wolf should have eaten you." As soon as he finished speaking, the wolf showed his teeth and claws at Mr. Dongwa again. Mr. Dongwa said, "The wolf broke the agreement. We swear to ask the 3 old beings. Now we only meet an apricot tree, why are you pressing me so eagerly?" So the wolf and Mr. Dongwa moved forward again. The wolf became more and more anxious. Seeing an old cattle basking in the sun in the ruined low wall, he said to Mr. Dongwa, "You can ask this old cattle." Mr. Dongwa said, "The previous tree had no insight, and its nonsense speaking made a big mess. Now, this cattle is just livestock, so why ask it?" The wolf said, "Just ask her. If you don't do it, I will just eat you." Mr. Dongwa had no choice, so he made a bow with hands folded in front to the old cattle, told the story again, and asked it. The old cattle frowned and stared, licked her nose, opened her mouth, and said to Mr. Dongwa, "The old apricot tree is right. When I first grew horns, my muscles were so strong. The old farmer sold a knife to buy me and let me help the other cattle to cultivate the fields. After I was stronger, the other cattle became older day by day, and I took care of everything. If he wanted to hunt, I towed the hunting cart and hurried on the nearest road. If he wanted to farm, I unloaded the cart and run to the wilderness to cultivate. The old farmer regarded me as his valuable assistant. In the past, there was no grain storage in his family, and now there is a lot in the autumn harvest. In the past, he lived poor at home and had no one to take care of or rely on, but now he is strutting around the village. In the past, his glasses and bottles were covered with dust, and his mouth and lips were always dry. And the earthenware pots that used to contain wine had never been touched by him in most of his life. Now he can make wine with millet and hold a bottle of wine in his hand, and he can be proud in front of his wives and concubines. In the past, he wore sackcloth, only accompanied by wood and stone. He didn't know how to bow with his hands nor how to study. Now he can read and write with textbooks in his hands. He wears a hat, a belt around his waist, and loose clothing. Every inch is on my own. Now, instead, they bully the old me and drive me into the wilderness. The cold wind stung my eyes, and the cold sun took pity on my lonely figure. I was as skinny as a mountain, and my tears were like rain, my saliva drooled and I couldn't put it away, and my legs and feet couldn't be lifted up. I've lost all my fur, my wounds have not healed. The old farmer's wife was jealous and fierce, and she spoke to him from morning to night, saying, "The whole body of the cattle is free of waste. The meat can be made into jerky, the skin can be made into leather, and the bones and horns can be ground into utensils." She instructed her eldest son and said, "You have been learning your craft from a cook for many years, so why don't you sharpen the knife on the whetstone and wait to kill the cattle? From these indications, he will be bad for me, and I don't know where I will die. I have contributions, but they are so ruthless to me, that I shall suffer calamity. Do you have any kindness to the wolf so that you expect you can avoid death?" As soon as the old cattle finished speaking, the wolf moved his mouth and claws to Mr. Dongguo again. Mr. Dongguo said, "Don't be in such a hurry." From a distance, Mr. Dongguo saw an old man coming with a cane. His beard and eyebrows were white. He was neatly and elegantly dressed. He seemed to be a man of good conduct and knowledge. Surprised and delighted, Mr. Dongguo left the wolf to meet the old man. Kneeling and weeping, he said, "I beg you to say a word to save me." The old man asked the reason, and Mr. Dongguo explained what happened and said, "Now that I meet you, is it because God doesn't let a scholar like me lose my life? Please say something to keep me alive." After speaking, he kowtowed in front of the old man's cane and leaned down to listen to the old man's words. After listening to Mr. Dongguo, the old man sighed again and again. He knocked the wolf with his cane and said, "You are so wrong. There is nothing worse than someone who is kind to you and yet you turn your back on him. Confucianism says, a person who has received favors from others and cannot bear to betray them must be filial as a son, and even tigers and wolves have a father-son relationship. Now that you have betrayed your benefactor like this, means you don't even have a father-son relationship." So he said in a stern voice, "Wolf, get out of here, or I'll beat you to death with this cane." Wolf laughed and said, "The old man only knows one side of the story but didn't know the other. Please let me tell the real story. I hope you can listen to me. At first, when Mr. Dongguo rescued me, he tied my feet with ropes, locked me in a bag, and pressed me with books. I lowered my head and didn't dare to breathe. Then Mr. Dongguo said something meaningless to Zhao Jianzi. He intended to let me die in the bag and take advantage of me. How could I not eat such a person?" Mr. Dongguo refused to accept it and described in detail how he cherished the wolf when he put it into the bag. The wolf was also constantly quibbling to win. The old man said, "These words are not credible. Try putting the wolf in the bag again, and I'll see if the situation is really hard." The wolf gladly followed. He stretched out his feet to Mr. Dongguo, and Mr. Dongguo tied the wolf in the bag, carried it on his shoulder, and put it on the donkey, but the wolf didn't find out what happened. The old man put his mouth to Mr. Dongguo's ear and asked Mr. Dongguo, "Do you have a dagger?" Mr. Dongguo replied, "Yes." Then he took out the dagger. The old man gestured to Mr. Dongguo with his eyes and asked him to stab the wolf with the dagger. Mr. Dongguo said, "Won't this kill the wolf?" The old man smiled and said, "Even this beast is so ungrateful, you still can't bear to kill it. You are a benevolent person, but you are also very stupid. It's like you jump into a well to save someone or take off your own clothes and put them on a frozen friend. You may save others' lives but you will be dead. This is appropriate from the perspective of the other party, but what to do if you bring yourself close to death? You are probably such a kind of person, right? Stressing on benevolence but falling into a foolish situation is originally disapproved by a gentleman. After speaking, he laughed, and Mr. Dongguo laughed too. So the old man reached out to help Mr. Dongguo slaughter the wolf with the dagger together and left it on the road before leaving. This is today's story. Do you like it? What do you think you learned from this story? Mohism was an ancient Chinese philosophy of ethics and logic and best known for its main concept, universal love. The Mohists promoted a philosophy of impartial caring, that is, a person should care equally for all other individuals, regardless of their actual relationship to them. However, Confucianism does not agree with this, and it declared that love should be differentiated according to the relationship and closeness. You shall not love a stranger as you love your parents. What do you think? If you like Asian classical stories or want to know more about Asian culture, please don't forget to subscribe for more new stories.